Students around the country continue to protest for free tertiary education. Many will be watching on the 26th of October as Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan delivers his midterm budget to find out what his move would be in light of higher education funding crisis. Christie Viljoen, who is a senior economist at KPMG, joins us now from our studios in Cape Town to discuss this further. Christie, thanks for your time this evening. Everybody's crunching numbers at this point as the crisis in higher education institutions seems to be escalating. Let me ask the broad question. Is free education possible in South Africa at this time?
At this time, not really, no. We need to have a long-term plan going for this. In order to take away tuition fees, we would need about 25 billion rand per year. Now, that's a substantial number, and if we are able to put that money together, there are also other spending priorities. So even though we might be able to pull money together here or there, maybe for next year, we need a long-term plan. It's not going to be easy at all.
Those countries who do have it in place, whether it's fully free or almost free, how are they able to do it?
Most of these countries are what we would call developed economies. So those are countries that have much larger economies, and the average household has a much larger income. Now that means that the people are able to spend or to give more tax to the government. These are countries like France, Scandinavian countries that we often hear offer free education, free healthcare. It's just the fact of the money is there. Even developing economies like Brazil and Mexico, where you have to a certain degree have tuition-free tertiary education, their GDP per capita is about double the size of South Africa's. So the bottom line there is that these economies are developed and basically rich enough to offer these services. In South Africa, we are not yet at that stage.
Some of the proposals being put forward involve increasing tax, whether it's introducing a new tax, it's a wealth tax, or increasing personal income tax, or taxing the wealthy more, or even increasing VAT. How feasible are those options?
Well, we are in a situation in South Africa where government money is very tight. Increasing taxes has been on the table for quite a few years, and there are always reasons to do that. We can always find a reason to get more tax revenue in, whether it's healthcare or education or infrastructure. So it's always on the table, because if you increase taxes, it actually the responsibility moves towards the richer part of the economy and also the corporates. So that's a way of sort of redistributing more money from people with more money to people with less money. It's a possibility, though I think at this stage it's not something that our government would look at. Our economy at this point and heading into the next year or two is really struggling. If we increase taxes at this stage, it'll put a further damper on economic growth, and that flows over into problems. Employment would not be sufficient for many years to come. That means that poverty and inequality will stay with us for much longer. I don't think it's an option at this stage.
We've spent some time looking at government's options. What about the institutions themselves? Are they able to increase their revenue sources?
Well, that's the thing. If you look at universities, they've got three sources of revenue. It's government subsidies, tuition from students, and private sector. And at this stage, it's very, very clear that the students are not willing to pay more. So they have to look at either the private sector or the government. Now, from the available data, we see that private sector income has been on a decline, and hence the much larger dependence on the government to solve the situation. However, with money being as tight as it is with the government, I think the responsibility for the universities would be to look at a long-term plan to increase their private revenue. And that's going to require much closer interaction with the private sector, with local communities. Again, it's not a simple answer. It's something that's going to take quite a long time to set in place. It's something that they really can't give much attention to right at the moment, because they are dealing with the situations that we have on campuses where it's even impossible to attend classes for the students that want. So again, the answers are not simple, but it's going to require universities being much more interactive with the private sector.
What do you think we're going to hear then from the Minister of Finance come October 26?
I'm sure the Minister of Finance will find some money. We are thinking at this stage that he's going to need to find roughly about 3 billion rand to make up for the promises that the Minister of Higher Education has made, that should be quite easy to find, I think. Each year when he delivers his budget, the Finance Minister talks about a few billion a year that they save on wasteful expenditure that was avoided, reduction in cost this place and that place. I think he'll be able to find it. The biggest challenge is what will the Minister do for the year thereafter, for 2018 and 2019. This budget coming up is a medium-term budget, and he needs to tell us what he's going to do within the next 3 years. And at this stage, the situation for 2018 is still very uncertain. The government will have to take a position there, and unfortunately for someone, that's not going to be a very popular position.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks for your time and insights this evening, Christie Viljoen, Senior Economist with KPMG.